comes to the Panther platform, everybody knows the Mercury Marauder is at the top of the food chain. What if I told you that even amongst the Marauders, there's an even greater hierarchy? Well, in today's video, guys, we're gonna take a deep dive into one of the most mysterious Panther cars to ever patrol the highways. That's right, you guys heard me right, I said patrol. And we're gonna find out what put it in a class of its own. You guys are going to find out why they call the FHP Marauder the interceptor of interceptors. So, quick recap for those of you who are just now hearing about the existence of this road pillaging beast. With roughly only 20 made, the FHP Marauder is the rarest version of the king of all Panther cars. Yes, even beating out the Kenny Brown Marauder. Now, the mid-2000s were an especially rough year to be a Florida motorist. You see, Fast and Furious fever was taking over everybody, adding a record number of drunk drivers and road rage incidents, and the highways of the Sunshine State were a literal battlefield. But, out of the ashes of all this chaos and madness, the interceptor of interceptors was born. This job was beyond the Crown Victoria's scope of operations. This was a job that the Mercury Marauder was literally built for. And so, with the funding of FHP Captain Peter Warwick, 20 or so Marauders were selected. Like Halo Spartans, they were handpicked and heavily augmented. Hell, even the drivers had to be the cream of the crop troopers, who then had to go through a special 3-day training course in Tallahassee before they were even considered worthy enough to drive one of these road warriors. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's take a deep dive and find out exactly what separates an FHP Marauder from a civilian one, and what kind of mods and upgrades these Spartans received that put them in a tier of their own. For starters, every FHP Marauder started with a 4.6 liter 32 valve double overhead cam V8. Each car got a complete overhaul from Reinhardt Automotive. You see, to keep up with all the vets and Mustangs of the time, the Marauder needed an increase in top speed. Believe it or not, all Marauders are limited to a top speed of 130 miles per hour, and FHP wanted a top speed no less than 150 miles per hour for its new fleet of road pirates. So in order to achieve this, the folks at Reinhardt swapped out the factory aluminum drive shaft and replaced it with a composite metal matrix one, which was also spun and balanced to over 6,000 RPMs. Next thing that needed a bump was the ECU. Each car was given a special SCT tune from a former Roush engineer, which bumped the already underrated horsepower of the Marauder even higher. And since the warranty had been voided by the tune, they said screw it and went ahead and removed the electronic speed limiter for good measure. And afterwards, the FHP Marauders were fitted with ADCO rear sway bars to improve handling. Oh no, it gets better. You see, to improve aerodynamics, each car was fitted with a lightweight fiberglass skid plate that ran from the gas tank to the rear bumper, which prevented air from getting stuck under the infamous quote-unquote diaper rear bumper. And if that sounds familiar, well, that's where the old bumper tuck trick was founded. Now, the factory brakes were swapped out for slotted and drilled rotors along with carbon fiber brakes. And to bring it all together, 5% tints all the way around to keep the car's stealth factor to an absolute maximum. And although this might be common knowledge now, the only way to identify an FHP Marauder was the Cobra badges on the side of the car. And being a Florida native myself, I've had the pleasure of sharing the highways with these monsters. There was always something off-putting about these tinted out Cobra badged Crown Vics driving on the highway. And even without the knowledge that there was a trooper behind that black void for windows, the cars always commanded some type of respect when you were in their presence. After reaching 75,000 miles, every FHP Marauder
was returned back to Peter Warwick and then eventually sold off to private collectors. So if you're ever in the market for a Mercury Marauder, keep an eye out for that Cobra badge. Look out for the brakes. Keep an eye out for some Cobra badges, rear bumper skid plates, and maybe a few slotted rotors along the way. And who knows, you too might be in possession of one of the most legendary interceptors to ever intercept the Florida Highway Patrol, Mercury Marauder. Good night, everybody.